All right, joining me now to explain further some of those findings there is one of the research analysts with financial derivatives company, Dumebi Iyeke. Good morning, Dumebi. Thank you for joining us. Well, I see you smiling there. Yes. You went on this survey with Edith Young. What were your major findings? Your caption says, Lagos retailers are mainly price sharks. How so?
I mean, the main reason why we went for the survey in the first place was to establish price discrimination across various markets in Lagos State. And, we're using Lagos as a proxy for, the entire country to show whether this economic phenomenon plays out, in Nigerian markets, be it open markets or supermarkets, and to what degree or extent are consumers experiencing these price differences. So we were able to do that, and not only the price differences coming up, but are we seeing it to the form or to the extent of price gouging? So we're able to. So that was what guided our mindset towards this survey, and we're trying to make sure that we're able to establish these facts and give our inference. So some of the various things that we found were peculiarities and differences between various open markets, various supermarkets, and differences or price differences between open markets and supermarkets. So between the open markets themselves, we were able to find that, number one, these markets specialize in perishables and major staples like rice, yam, and these are the major commodities that they specialize in. And we found that markets that are within open markets that are within the that have close proximity have relatively stable prices. Their prices are relatively the same, with just slight differences when we look at the price difference between a market like Oyingbo and Ido. So they're quite close. So the price differences in certain commodities are not so wide. And then when we look at the commodity, and we also look at the location of these commodities. So we look at the location of this market. So this market, a market like in Surah, is situated around VI, the environs, you have it around the VI environs, the Ikoyi environs. So we see that because of this location, their prices are relatively higher and compared to a market like Oyingbo that's situated around Yaba. You have Yaba environs in Butemeta. And then we also look at, interestingly, the retailer's perception. So the retailers look at the consumers and they size them up, before they give them the price.
So if you're kind of thing.
Exactly. So if you're coming in, for example, while we were doing the survey, I'm really light-skinned. So going to the market, people were already saying, they were already hiking the price.
Absolutely.
A colleague of mine had to say,
and then when they see the kind of car you're coming into,
they're like, you know what, just move away. Let's get the real prices, because these people are really sizing you up and, they are giving us outrageous prices. But, by the time you get to meet them and then you have this conversation with them, you understand that they really do that. So they have a perception of the consumer that is coming, and then they also give their prices with that in mind. So you have Surah retailers also do the same. Imagine the consumer coming in with their Jeep and then they size. So you have those differences across open markets. Then when you look at the supermarkets, we're able to find that location was also a big deal, because these markets are, they pay rent. Their rent is quite high. So when you look at a supermarket on the mainland, supermarket on the island, their prices also vary. And we found that the variations in price differences between open markets and supermarkets on the island and the mainland are almost of the same degree. So you have Surah, the open market in Surah and Oyingbo market, the price difference is about 15%. And then you find that the supermarket in probably Lekki and in Magodo, you're having the price difference almost that same range. So those are some of the things that we found across both the open market and the supermarket.
Now I'm sure you listened to that report Didion put together there.
Yes.
I find it interesting that yam sold in Surah market happens to be less expensive than that sold in Oyingbo. Why?
I mean, first off, this is yam is in season now because new yam is coming out. So the price of the old yam is really going down. For the woman in Surah market, we were able to find that she has more of old yams. So, and the price of old yams now are relatively cheaper. And then we also realized that the size of our yams are smaller. So you have in Oyingbo market, what they would show as a medium-sized yam is a little bit bigger than what it is in Sura market. And so that was those were some of the differences that we found as to why her prices were the way they are. And another thing that we were able to find across this market are that people from, retailers from Sura market, they purchase from other commodity-specific markets like Oyingbo.
Okay, so perhaps that's the reason for the price
variation. Yeah, so yes. That's another major reason for the price. So these are some of the things that we observed, because they have their transport cost to look at, they have their carrying cost to look at, and they're also paying, their rent is relatively
so traders in Sura go to Oyingbo to purchase their commodities,
exactly, and then take it to the Sura market to sell to consumers. So they have their retailers margin there. So where you have like Oyingbo market is selling at a wholesale price, Sura market retailers, traders will be selling at a retail price.
Okay. Now, sometimes these traders are charged kind of taxes or fares. Did they complain about any such thing?
Yeah, we got quite a few from some of our interviewees, and they expressed concerns explicitly in that particular area. And this is compounding the fact that they are already paying more for transportation. Normally, if they're bringing a good or a commodity into Lagos State, they're already incurring costs, because now they're paying for each bag of, for example, a trader bringing in bags of beans into Lagos State. The person is paying for transport and also paying for each bag of beans that they're bringing into the state. So now imagine bringing a bag of beans from, let's say, Kano State. Now from Kano State to Lagos, you have at least 5 states they're going to get through to come to Lagos State. So, and they're experiencing the fact that they're going to pay at various checkpoints. For example, a particular lady that we met in the market that sells palm oils and sells groundnut oil. So she brings her palm oil in from Enugu State, and she's coming from Enugu State. There are at least 8 checkpoints that she's gonna pass through, and she's paying at least 500 naira per checkpoint. So, and this is included, and all of this will translate. They have to factor it into their price. So that was where our caption came from, because
the shock.
Yeah, so they're not really going to, as rational retailers that they are going to have to pass the burden down, and the consumers will definitely bear the brunt of all of this additional costs that they are experiencing.
All right, can you take us through the economics of price gouging?
Yes, so price gouging in its sense is a situation where sellers or marketers in this case, increase the price of their commodities so much so that the consumers find it unbearable and very unfair. However, this is not the case of what we're experiencing across markets, whether supermarkets or open markets in Lagos State. What we're experiencing is price discrimination, which is a natural economic phenomenon that is a characteristic of imperfect markets. And imperfect markets are very, very much playing out right now in Lagos State and even in the country in general. So this characteristics of price discrimination comes with imperfect markets where we have few sellers and many buyers where prices are not identical, and there's also information asymmetry, meaning that if there is no perfect information across markets regarding prices. So that's why we can see that for this same particular commodity, whether tomato or pepper, in Sura markets, it will be more expensive, and in Oyingbo markets to be less expensive. And then when we go to supermarkets, you see that even for supermarkets, price of staples are way higher than when you go to the market. So that's the concept behind what we did, and the concept behind price, price discrimination.
Right. In conclusion, of course, we've seen the closure of Third Mainland Bridge.
Yes.
Do you see that increasing this price discrimination factor?
Yeah, I mean, we had some retailers, mention this, because some retailers in Sura market, they stay on the mainland. So, and sometimes, and a lot of times, they bring in their goods from the mainland to the island. So they're experiencing traffic congestion and, to an extent, higher transport costs. So all of this, they factor into their prices. And this bridge closure is not for 1 month. we're looking at 6 months.
Yeah.
And they're going to factor all of this into their prices. And, you know, it's not just the bridge closure that's affecting the prices. We're looking at higher petrol prices. Now, the price for petrol now is going for 148 naira per litre. And this is going to affect transportation costs for you know, bringing in their goods into the market and even out. You know, so all of this is definitely going to play out in the prices and you know, continue to widen the price variation across markets.
And this brings us to some of the burning economic issues.
Yes.
Of course, we've seen Brent hovering around the $44 per barrel. So if we see Brent perhaps going higher, so it's most likely Nigerians are going to pay more for fuel, right?
Yes. I mean, there's a positive correlation between the price of Brent and PMS price. So if PMS price goes up, so if Brent price goes up, PMS price is likely to go up. Maybe by not the same degree, but it will definitely respond to that increase in Brent price. So if Brent price continues, the rally continues, you know, trading at $45 per barrel or even above $45 per barrel, we could see another increase in PMS price, probably up to 150, you know, naira per litre, or probably 155 if Brent reaches probably $55 per barrel.
And consumers like us who want to buy some of those food commodities will have to pay for it.
Exactly.
All right, we have external reserves there still sliding down.
Yes.
Naira, well stable at the pearl market, but still 475. That also
will yes. So for external reserves, actually there was a slight update this morning, and we saw that external reserves just inched up by about 10 million to $35.63 billion. And you know, this is a slight encouragement, you know, for the CBN, because now they have just a little more cash to shore up the Naira and keep it stable at what it is currently trading at. But when we look at where the Naira is coming from and where it is now, we have the Naira was trading at about 360 Nairas per dollar. Now it's about 475, you know, Naira per dollar. All of this would, you know, affect imported inflation. When we look at supermarkets, they engage in commodities that have longer shelf life, and they import some of these commodities. And this is an additional cost for them. So meaning that they're now buying these commodities at a more expensive rate. And then what we're going to see is they would revise their prices, which they've been, you know, engaging in for some time now because of all of the volatilities and market uncertainties. So that is also going to, you know, come into play, and there will be an increase in imported inflation, which is a component of inflation.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Dumebi, for your time. Dumebi Iyeke is one of the research analysts with Financial Derivatives Company. Well, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll look at some of the issues on the foreign exchange market. Just stay with us.